Out near the edge of the forge, there's a wall. Not the kind built to keep things out. No. This wall was made of scrap and silence. A place where the exiled go to get stuck and disappear. They say a girl lived there once. Just a kid. Hands always black with engine grease, turning rust into reason. She had a knack for fixing things no one else dared touch. Starship holes, oxygen rigs, even broken people. But one night the sky caught fire. A wreck fell from orbit, screaming through the black like a dying god. Everyone ran away, but she ran toward it. What she pulled from that wreck changed everything. Not right away, but years later, folks would trace it back to the wall, back to the girl with the hood, goggles, and the stare that just said, "I'm not done yet." Not by a long shot. Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to One Guy, One Die. I'm Turk. Welcome back to the Grouch Couch. Today we're going to be starting a new solo adventure using Ironsworn Starforged. Now that intro cinematic that you probably just seen, thanks for watching it. I actually haven't even made that yet. I'm going to be recording it after today's session. It's going to be based entirely on what we talk about and what we roll up today. So hopefully it was a good one. Before we begin, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing here. In this episode, we're going to be doing some setup. We're going to be rolling up our character, we're going to be creating the setting, and defining our universe by filling out this game's truths chart, which is honestly a rad system that Starforged uses to help you shape your world. Now, if this Session Zero kind of style really isn't your thing, no worries. If you want to just jump into the story, you can skip over to Episode 2, or if you're here for character creation, you want to know a little bit more about our character, who we're going to be playing, you can check the timestamps. I've got you covered. Now, before we get into the truths and the top-down camera, here is something to know and something to note. I've been told that I play solo stuff a little bit differently than most folks. Some people have told me that they really love my style, and other people have said that it's kind of unique. I'm not trying to follow a standard. I always play solo the way that I enjoy to play solo, and I've heard that it resonates with other people too. So I just figured that that needs to be said before we move on. Also, let's talk a little bit about what kind of story we're going for here today so you know what we're actually going to be getting into. We're going for a space western vibe. I'm talking about a ragtag crew of misfits on a beat-up ship just trying to survive and maybe accidentally save the universe in the process. But I'm also going to be mixing in some fantasy and mystery elements into this story. Starforged doesn't really officially include magic, but our story kind of will, because that's something that I'm super interested in. You could think like maybe the Force from Star Wars, like a strange mystical energy that no one really understands, at least not yet, anyway. We might get closer to this magic or become a part of it. I don't know. Also, I'm talking about aliens. Starforged technically is human-centric, but our universe will not be. Non-human species are going to be uncommon, but I do think they are going to be out there, because what is fantasy without a little bit of fantasy? Now, I already have some ideas for this world, obviously, so we will be combining those with what we roll to co-create with the truth section today. But I am thinking something weird, something gritty, and something unforgettable. Something that I'm just super interested in playing it. There's a lot of sci-fi shows and things out there that I've been watching a lot of recently, and there's a lot that I just really love, and I'm hoping to include some of those things right here in the show. Also, I always consider all of my solo series is kind of collaborative storytelling a little bit. I love to take ideas and suggestions from the comment section. So if you have any ideas for characters or plot threads or location names or anything else like that, please do leave it down in the comments. I read as many comments as possible. Even if you see that I've just posted episode 5, but you're watching this episode today, you could still feel free to leave comments below, and I'll try to include them the best that I can, no matter what episode you post them. Lastly, this series is going to be analog all the way. It's going to be entirely physical. Cards, dice, paper, pencils, no digital tools, no apps, no spreadsheets. I love digital tools in general. I really do. Most of my other series here on the channel are all digital using Foundry, but for this one, we're actually going to be doing it old school. There's just something raw and personable about playing with your hands and writing things down with pencil and paper. But that being said, on these series, especially ones that run longer, hopefully this one will do that, I always release my notes to you guys. I have them on a Google Doc with everything that happened and all the important threads and everything else like that. And a link to that Google Doc will be in the description, so you can feel free to check that out. But I always suggest that you don't read the Google Doc until you're caught up on the episodes, because there might be some minor spoilers in that Google Doc of notes. So just keep that in mind. Lastly, if you want to play Starforged or honestly any other solo thing, please feel free to use our drive-through-RPG link down in the description. You using our affiliate link to help pick up stuff, help support the show. It allows us to continue to get books and stuff from drive-through-RPG and review them and other kinds of stuff. So if you do decide to pick up anything for yourself, make sure to use our link down there. We do appreciate it so much. It goes without saying, but please do leave a like on this video if you do find it fun or entertaining or anything. It lets me know that you did enjoy the series. And of course, if this series gets enough likes, I will do more episodes. It's kind of the way that I always operate on these solo series. So if you like the video and it gets enough likes, then I'll come back and I'll do another set of videos and continue on the series. Okay, that is enough preamble. I say that we roll up our universe and meet our space cowboy or cowgirl. All right, so as you can see, I've actually set us up an awesome table here for us to play on. I don't know if recently I posted a video on the channel about how important it is to, starting a solo and everything else like that. You can check out that video on the channel, but having a nice play space is really important. I think it's super cool. So we've got some stuff and we're gonna roll up some stuff. Starforged actually comes with these awesome asset cards that we're going to get into later. Just super interesting. Yeah, and I also got a character fob, so this is going to be our character sheet, but we've actually got our character sheet in here, and it's got all of our threads and stuff. And another cool thing about this is it actually has a spot for cards, so we actually get to put our asset cards in here while we're playing. I just taped this Swear an Iron Vow thing to the front of it because I liked this art more than what was already on there. But first, we're actually going to get into this Truths workbook, which is a pretty exciting stuff. It helps you put together your world. And I got this cool, so this is like a hex map, but it's actually dry erase, and the character fob is also dry erase. So we're going to be able to make maps and other kinds of stuff dry erase style. And in my setting up a solo series, I talk a lot about how you're going to need a notebook just to put ideas in there, which I did do for a while. So I've got a bunch of ideas in here for our series. I'm just going to keep that to the side so I forget. I have these ideas and I want to make the world fit around my idea, which I think you should do if you decide to do this yourself. But just it's a little bit of an idea for our character that we're making, so you kind of know the direction that I'm taking here. Some of the backstory of our character is that so in this book you take iron vows, right? And then you're kind of like forced to abide by these vows. It's like a part of who you are, right? Being from the forge and everything else like that. But my idea actually is that our character is what I'm calling an astral elf, which is kind of a super rare species. And these astral elves take these iron vows in the game you cut your hands to take an iron vow, and you do like in this game to do that. But actually these astral elves are going to have these big astral elf ears, and they're actually going to cut their ears when they take their iron vows. And whenever they complete their iron vows, these cuts are going to heal. So whenever someone disobeys their iron vow or it goes against it, these cuts are actually going to fester and scar, like almost magically. They're like magically bound to these things. And I think that our character is going to have a little bit of magic, but the idea is that astral elves are super rare, and our character doesn't really know their family or their history, and no one's seen astral elves for a really, really long time here in the Forge. And so one of her quests is actually to find other astral elves and figure out what's going on. She knows about iron vows. It's magically enforced upon her, so there has to be a sense of magic in our world. And I just love the visual of meeting these other astral elves and having these cuts on our ears, and people knowing that we currently have vows that we need to complete, and if we don't, like, our ears will fester it and blister it, I just think that's such a cool idea. But there's no easier way to begin than by beginning. One of the first things we have to discuss is a cataclysm. And I know that a lot of this is going to basically be background, kind of the things that are happening in our world while we're playing our own story. So keep in mind that the world story is kind of just going to be a setting for us, right? And I'm not going to read through every single one of all of these, because if I did that, we would be here for a long time. So I'm just going to talk about the ones that stand out to me, and we'll roll on the ones that we need to. First of all, I do want to have a part of Earth, Earth Zero, the first Earth. We escape it through a catastrophic war. But also, I think that by the time the war happens, people are like fighting over what's left of Earth. You know what I mean? And so there's a war happening there, but we've already kind of left these planets and stuff, right? But I think this catastrophic war might itself finish off and destroy what is left of Earth, or Earth could be left with the remains of the Earth and whoever won said war. So I actually do want to roll on that chart as well. So we're going to do 1d100, the first roll of the solo series to decide the war. This is very exciting. We get some hype in chat. So whenever we roll, the one with the 0 is going to be our 10s. So we got a 49. Genetically engineered soldiers. I'm wondering what kind of... Is it like super soldiers, like Captain America style? I think actually it's more like Terminator style, like half machine, half man soldiers. So there was a war on Earth Zero. Let's roll an oracle to see exactly what these soldiers were fighting for, huh? As a 39. Endure. 94 is vow. Endure vow. The space age had begun, and we escaped the polluted Earth Zero. But people stayed on Earth to endure this pollution and took a vow to clean it up. But there was some kind of argument between countries, and genetically engineered soldiers on both sides fought to claim the Earth as their own. Is this war still happening on this Earth? Maybe it's still an issue. I'm going to call that likely. We'll roll for it. That is a 91, which means extreme no, huh? Likely is 75 or less, so 91 is extreme no. So they fought and fought and fought, and now there's nothing left of Earth Zero. I think one side was probably fighting to clean up the Earth, and the other side was fighting maybe to like harvest what was left of the and take it somewhere else, you know what I mean? Awesome. A lot of this is going to go into my Google Doc and notes, which, like I said before, you can check out in the description if you want to. Okay, so that's the Cataclysm. Now we're moving on to Exodus, how we end up at the Forge. And the Forge is like a part of space that we're all kind of at. And I've read through these, and I think this bottom one here is what we're going to go with because it kind of fits my idea for the character and the story ahead. So mysterious alien gates provided instantaneous one-way passage to the Forge. In the midst of the Cataclysm, our ancestors found a strange metal pillar on our homeworld's moon. A map on the surface of this alien relic detailed a deep space locations of the Iron Gates, massive devices that powered artificial wormholes with no other option. The Exodus ships fled through the gates and emerged here in the Forge. So when the space age begun, we went to space, found this thing on the backside of the moon, and used it to travel to a different universe, being the Forge, where there are more planets, more things. Simple enough. All right, so the next one's for communities, and a lot of these seem really interesting. They don't really fit with my idea. They almost do. But I do like this second one, that there are danger, but there's safety in numbers. Many ships and settlements are under the banner of one of the founder clans. It's a fun idea to have founder clans, so we might meet different factions of people as we travel around our world, but we have a tentative foothold in this galaxy. Each of the 5 founder clans honor the name and legacy of a leader, a different leader, I'm going to go on ahead and assume, who guided their people in the chaotic time after the Exodus. Vast reaches of settlements and domains are claimed by clans, and territorial skirmishes are common, which is fun because we're going to kind of be outcasts that aren't really on any name or faction, and we're going to have to navigate these little wars and stuff. I think we're going to go with that one because I like the idea of planets being populated, because we're going to explore some planets and stuff like that. So I don't want them to be small, but also space stations are fun. Okay, so here's the next one, talking about the Iron Vows, which I already discussed, talking about our character. Iron Vows, I mean, there's some really interesting ideas in here. I was just reading it, but our Iron Vows are going to be sworn on by astral elves, and they're going to be cutting their ears whenever they take certain iron vows. And I think long-term, like destiny vows, they might even put earrings in these cuts in their ears and stuff. So iron, they're putting it through their ears as vows, right? That's my idea. Very cool. So we're doing a custom one. All right, so the next one's laws, and just reading through these, I think we're going to go with the second one because I like the idea of each faction and colony having their own different kind of set of laws. It might be fun to go into a planet and do something by accident and get in trouble or something like that. So I think that's super fun. Also, our starting quest that we're going to be going on, which we'll get into when we do some character building. This is going to be a fun idea. So the important one is laws and governance are varied across settled domains. I didn't actually put a lot of thought to this one before we began, but religion. So I think, again, we're going to take the second one, is that faith is just as diverse as the people, because I like the idea of other species and other races and stuff having their own kind of gods and ideals and stuff like that, things that we can explore. I like keeping it kind of open because we might roll and meet some people from a certain faction or clan or something. And now we're on to the next one, which is magic. I hope you're enjoying this world building thing so far. We've only got a few more to go. But again, if you're not enjoying it, you skip forward using timestamps if you want to. Character building. I know some people aren't into this part of stuff, and that's okay. But magic is an important one, and we already discussed it a little bit. But I think that most people believe that magic does not exist. Some look to superstition and old traditions to comfort in this unforgiving galaxy, because that's what they believe in. People simply believe that magic doesn't exist, but I do believe that surrounding the astral elves, there is some kind of magic going on, especially with iron vows and completing their iron vows. And there might be some kind of magical force that helps astral elves and pushes them forward, stuff like that. So even the second one, supernatural powers are wielded by rare people. So while not magic in the truest sense, the abilities of these characters, so we'll call them, are as close to magic as we can conjure. And I think over time, if our dice rolls allow us to, our character might develop some magical powers. We never know. There's even a quest starter down here that says a young character wields incredible power but cannot control it. And so that's kind of fun. That's another thing that our character might be going through, is that they don't know how to control this magic that's surrounding them and these iron vows and stuff, because there's no other astral elves to teach them. And I don't actually want to pin down the magic exactly, so I'm not going to roll on this, but something fun might happen, like while we're playing. We're going to go with that. So next we've got communication and data, which is really interesting reading through these, but I kind of just see like data in my head and sending messages and stuff. I mean, classic like Star Wars holograms, other kinds of stuff like that. I'm thinking about things that are going to be fun visually to think about and fun things that are going to be cool to describe. And so I think we're in, pretty distant future where it's super sci-fi, talking about laser blasters and holograms, credit discs and stuff like that. That's kind of where we're at. So that's what we're going with. Then we're on about medicine. Reading one of these is actually really cool. Orders of sworn healers preserve our medical knowledge and train new generations of caregivers. And I love an idea, in like Doctor Who, there's like that planet of like hospitals or whatever, and there's like that species of people that are just dedicated to being healers. And I love the idea of that. And maybe they have like hospitals and stuff on different planets and other kinds of stuff. And I love the idea of there being dedicated healers that can heal people for long periods of time, and having those hospitals and stuff. I think that's very cool. I don't know what that species is going to look like. If you guys have suggestions, leave them down in comments, but I think having a dedicated species that heals people, so healers guild and stuff like that. But I also think there's going to be like some remote healing, with like stims and robots and stuff, but like major healing is going to be done by these species that can get it done, and very cool stuff. So artificial intelligence, reading through these previously, I think the artificial consciousness, it emerged in the time before the Exodus, and sentient machines now live with us here in the Forge. So like there's going to be robots, people are going to have like robot helpers and stuff like that, and they're sentient. They have their own, ideas and stuff like that, because our character, I think, is going to get a robotic companion that I actually plan to use as comedic relief, possibly. And so, yeah, we're definitely doing that. But there could be, down here it says rogue AI has taken a transport ship. There could be rogue robots and rogue AI and stuff like that. So like definitely present. So wars, I have no idea. It's been a little bit since we've rolled on one, so let's roll on this one. I moved it and I didn't see it before I moved it, so I'm just gonna roll again. That is a 70. So war never ends. Talented weaponsmiths and shipwrights craft deadly high-tech tools of destruction. Dominant factions wield mighty fleets and battle-hardened troops. Those in power have access to weapons of horrific destructive potential. Skirmishes and wars flare across settled domains, and most are pawns or casualties destructive campaigns, which makes sense because there's those 5 factions that are controlling different planets and different sectors around the Forge Galaxy. Okay, so now we're talking about life forms, and we already talked about that a little bit, but there's going to be humans, right? And I think a lot of the humans came from Earth Zero, and there's astral elves, which we talked about. There's going to be this healing species of people, and there's going to be robots. Those are kind of the 4 that we have so far. I don't want to like make so many like Star Wars, where it's just an insane amount of different species and stuff. But I think having like a set few is of different kinds of life forms is kind of what we're going to go with. So I think they might develop as the story goes on, and it also leaves it open for us to develop stuff over time, and also for you guys to come up with ideas in the comments. So if you have any ideas for maybe a cool life form or anything else like that, let me know, and they might come up. And there's actually some roll charts of finding creatures in the reference guide that we'll actually get to be able to use. Okay, so now we're talking about precursors, which I guess are things that were here in the Forge before we arrived. And this first one I think is pretty cool. We might go with this one. So over eons, a vast number of civilizations have rose and fell here within the Forge. And today we call grubs. I don't think we're going to go with that, no. But today, the folk that we call scavenger crews and audacious explorers delve into the mysterious monuments and ruins of ancient beings. So there's going to be old lost civilizations, which I think is also a fun idea, because maybe that's where astral elves came from. I have no idea. So maybe we can delve into some of those things. Could be cool. All right, last one. We're talking about horrors. Oh man, and I'm a big Firefly fan, and so the idea of reavers is really cool. So let's read through this and see what we can come up with. I don't necessarily like any of these. I just read through them, so I'm wondering. All of these kind of mention undead and like ghostly spirits and stuff. There is a mention at the bottom about soul binders. They are dedicated to putting these things to rest, whatever the cost. The strange energies of the Forge give unnatural life to the dead. The soul binders are an organization sworn to confront these horrifying, and I'm also thinking that there has to be like necromancers that are like leading these undead into of some kind, and the soul binders are like fighting them, which is just another faction thing, which we might see. I don't know if we're going to necessarily get involved with it, but we'll kind of just go with that a little. But I love the idea of reavers, so I'm hoping that something like that comes up during our story and we can flesh it out a little. And that's it. The worksheet is done. Our world is built. And again, if you ever want to reference anything about our world, it'll be in the Google Doc in the description, so you can check that. So I'm going to put this away. Got it here. I like to stay organized as best that I can when I'm doing these solo series, and I suggest that you do the same. I have folders and other kinds of stuff that I keep everything in, and it really does, especially because I plan to play this series for a long time, and if I ever take a break, I want to be able to come back and have everything organized, and so there we are. Okay, so now we're going to create our character, which is pretty exciting stuff. This is the best part about the show, and whenever I make a character, I always try to create a story that I can get behind. Story in these always means more to me than stats, but stats are important here because from what I've seen from other YouTubers and stuff is that Ironforge is tough. There is potential for, you know, unaliving and what have you, so hopefully we'll get through it. But I also will say that in my stories, I feel like the people who are a part of our crew are also our character. Even as an example for my Walking Dead series, everyone that ended up with us in our settlement all became a part of our kind of like crew, you know. But I think in this game, we're just going to be playing our main character, and everyone else is going to have like slight stats and stuff like that to add in with us. And I might make some character sheets and get some art made from our lovely artist Proteus, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But that is that. So even here in the book, when making your character, it says, you are human. No, we are not. All right. And so you don't always have to follow rules that books say. You can always play the way that you think is fun. And I always suggest that to everyone, because this is your game, man. Play it the way that you want. Okay. So our first step here is to choose our two paths. And we have some fun paths here. Again, I'm not going to read through every single thing, but we are going to talk a little bit about what we chose and why. So there are a couple of good options here. I hope you guys can see that okay. There is a couple of really good options here in this book, including Smuggler, which I really thought was going to be one I was going to pick, as well as Starship Engineer. But we get to pick two, and I think we're going to go with Psionist, because as an astral elf, these magical powers are going to come out of us, and we need to learn how to control them. And we're also going to go with Starship Engineer, because that is going to tie into the beginning of our story. And I love the idea of our character being a little techie. You know, she's going to be clever and techie, right? She had to survive somehow, and maybe she survived by helping to rebuild ships and other kinds of stuff like that. So that's what we're going with. But as we build out other characters, we will recruit people to our misfit set of, our crew on our ship. We're going to pick some other classes, and we're going to build some other characters. Even if we don't give them complete asset cards and everything, we're still going to use these as a base for all of our characters that we add to our group. So I'm going to pull out our lovely, awesome asset cards. So cool. I love the idea of cards in games. It's just so cool. Here's a tip though, don't shuffle your cards. I play Magic, so I was just like shuffling. Don't do that. Okay, so being that said, we get to pick from these 4 here. Visage, Kinetic, Tech, or Gearhead. We get to pick 2, so choose any 2 path assets and consider how each choice plays, right? So the ones from Psionic are actually really interesting. So Visage, you can actually, anytime you face death or face desolation, you can get visions of your heritage because you're all that remains of your people. And I think that's really cool. But also Kinetic, just straight up, you wield kinetic powers and you can lose momentum to get a +2 on using your momentum on your powers. But with this one, if you ever roll a match whenever you do that move, you can get a +2 to momentum and you mark 2 ticks on your Bond's legacy track. And I think we're going to go with Visage, especially because starting out, we don't know how to use our powers yet, or even if they're relevant yet, but we're going to keep that to the side because I think when we level up or anything else like that, we'll add it in. Now, when it comes to the other 2, Tech is more like hacking and Gearhead is more like repairing. And so I think I want to go with Gearhead. We're going to put all these other ones back into our path. Cool, so we've got those 2. We're going to get them added into our thing in a second. Right, so the next step is to create our backstory. And so I want to roll on this just to see if we can add any kind of spice to it, although we already kind of have our backstory, but we might be able to get something spicy. And so that's an 83. You were taken or lured away by someone. Ooh, we were taken or lured away by someone or something from the other astral elves. I also love 8 through 13. You're guided by a vision or a prophecy, and we're going to do both of those because I think that's a lot of fun. Although we are taken away from the astral elves or whatever, that kind of makes sense as to why I think our character is going to be an orphan. We kind of like grew up, on the streets, kind of classic street rat kind of stuff is what we're going with here. So that makes sense. Maybe we were taken when we were like a baby, right? So like we don't know how we got to this orphan. Man, kids probably picked on us because of our ears. Dang. So anyways, moving on. Next, we're going to write our background vow. Envision the vow. Consider what you know of this setting and your character thus far. What nagging ambition, aching need, or scarred sacred commitment that drives you. This is your background vow. Okay, that being said, we finally get to write something on our character sheet. So I'm actually going to put all these cards to the side and pull that out. Now, this is, like I said at the beginning, this is our character fob. So it's going to have everything in it that we have. And this is our character sheet. Now look, she's not supposed to be green, but I printed it and my printer was out of red ink, okay? I'm also going to open this up now. We got us a little mini right there. So this is our character. Now this, it's supposed to be, she's supposed to be red, but again, our character sheet our printer had no red ink in it. So hopefully editing me later will remember to put up an actual image on screen now that you guys can see. Now this artwork was actually done by our amazing artist, Children of Proteus. They're a fantastic artist. They've been doing all the Grouch Couch artwork for a very long time. You can actually check out links to them down in the description. They have their own Twitch channel and their own comic book series. Show them some love, eh? And let them know how good of a job that they did on this character art, yeah? So it's not supposed to be green, but it is. But you can see our character's got those big, long ears. She's also got this hood around her neck because we're going to be hiding our ears a lot of the time, I feel like, because astral elves, they're not really common, and she doesn't want people to think of her a different way and stuff like that. So she kind of keeps them hidden, but she is a super kind of techie character, right? She knows how to fix things and do things and stuff like that. So that's what our character looks like. Now, when it comes down to character sheets, we actually have a fun little stylized character sheet here. There is a basic one I'm sure that you're used to that looks a little something like this. This is the basic one. We keep it in the back just for reference or for extra, but we actually have this cool stylized character sheet that we're going to be using. Although I don't like how it's horizontal, so I'm actually going to have to like turn this every time I want to look at it or whatever, but that's just okay. So we're actually going to write down our background vow, and I'm not going to do it in marker, although like I said, one of the cool things about this is that we can actually write on this and it's dry erasable. So we're going to be able to track things really easy. So we're going to write down our background vow. Now, obviously, quite obviously, our main legacy background vow of this character is going to have something to do with our origin and being an astral elf out here, right? But it needs to be simple and kind of open-ended. So I'm thinking something like discover the truth about astral elves is kind of what I'm thinking, because other astral elves could be out there in the world. They could also not be. They could be a part of the ancients. They could be, we don't know. We have zero idea. So I think making it that open-ended is cool because we might be able to just like find our parents, or we might be able to go down into an ancient temple, learn some lore about where they are, or they could be on a hidden planet somewhere. We don't know. So I think that is open-ended enough to get us going. There we are. It might be kind of small, hard to see on camera, but discover the truth about astral elves. Okay, we have written down our background vow, and they're supposed to be real general, like I vow to do this, I will do this. Yeah. And there's also options to just roll from one if you can't think of one. Think about playing this yourself. All right, so this is step 5, board your starship. Now, here's the way that our story is going to begin. All right, and I also still don't even have a name for this character, so we're gonna roll for one, hopefully. But as we know, she's an astral elf. She makes iron vows on her ears. She's got magic that she doesn't know how to control. That hasn't even really shown itself yet. She's very techy, and she was abandoned as an orphan. And my idea for our starting location, which we're gonna roll on like our starting world and stuff too later, but she was kind of a street rat. She got caught up with the wrong people, and she got arrested by one of these factions that, holding down laws. And what this particular faction did whenever people disobeyed the law is they actually put them on a ship, and they shipped them to a desolate planet, like a prison. And here on this planet, they feed people like basic gruel food, and people scavenge to get like extra stuff, and people can kind of go out and do whatever they want on this planet, but you're just on a planet full of criminals. And I imagine there's like a central community location where you can get food, and some people just serve their time there or whatever. But a lot of times people get just left on this planet, and they're just left there to rot, especially if their crimes are really bad, or if there's no one there to pick them up or get them to leave. There's no family coming to visit them. They kind of just get forgotten. And I think in her case, she got forgotten about on this prison planet. And so over time, there's been like space debris and other kinds of crashed ships and stuff left over from wars of factions. And over time, she has been like scavenging and building her own little ship vessel to be able to escape this planet, because she's just been stuck. And our story is going to begin on this planet. There's going to be like some final piece that she needs, some part to an engine to actually get this ship good enough to get off of this dang planet. So these things that we're going to roll on for our starship need to kind of be relevant to that, right? This is going to be kind of like a piece of crap ship that she's putting together, but it's her ship, she built it. I imagine it like just covered in different kinds of metal and material, and something she's been working on for years. I don't know how long she's been stuck on this planet, but I'm imagining it's at least been 3 years she's been stuck on this prison. So of course she's probably formed some bonds and met some people and stuff like that. So that's that. So now let's move on to this part of the... So we have our starship card, which we're going to get to add to everything. We get to, add more things to it as we advance. And even here on the roll chart, one of the things is built out of repurposed scrap right here. So it's actually what we're going to be going with. It is awesome that it's already in there. We love that. So we've got some questions to get us going, like who owns this starship? And I mean, we do if you're playing with other characters, right? So now we have envision the starship. And I like the idea of rolling on this thing just to give it some extra detail. So let's go on ahead and do that. There we go. That is a 20. Is that a 5? No, that was a 2. That is a 20. So the gravity generator is notoriously fickle. Okay. Actually, this is important things to remember for later. So we're actually going to pull out our book here, get us to a nice clean page. I'm going to write this. Notoriously fickle. I love that. And I'm going to roll one more time. 78. The ship is powered by an ancient precursor device. Oh, so there is our quest right there. Right there. We have a lead to an ancient precursor device here on the prison planet that we need to get to put in our ship to be able to get out of here. Love that. My handwriting's atrocious. You're going to learn this over the course of the series. It's all chicken scratch. But I say everything out loud, and there's a Google Doc you can... Okay. Now we have to name our starship. If you're stuck for a name, roll in the Starship Oracle on 329. I'm just going to pull out this handy-dandy reference book. It's amazing. Yeah. Love this thing. Starship name. Very cool. I'm going to roll on it, and then if I hate the starship name, I'm going to roll again. My original starship name was Stargazer, but I felt like that was too close to Starforged, so we'll just roll again. And I love the idea of naming it after like an old singer of like a band, like Guardians of the Galaxy did. So hold on, let me think. What if like we call it the Mercury, you know, like Freddie Mercury. I kind of like the idea of that. But let's roll as well and see if it gives us something better. Starship name. We got a 47, Lost Fortune. Mercy's actually on here too. I thought that said Mercury for a second. It doesn't. Is there EF? Fallen Mercury. Yeah, Fallen Mercury. I love that. That will be the name of our show. And I don't have much idea for descriptor, but I do imagine it's not going to be a very large ship. And even in like Guardians of the Galaxy, I think one of the first ships he had, it might have been the Milano. It was like only like 2 rooms. It was like a downstairs with a bed and then like a top stairs, which was like the cockpit, right? There was just 2 little rooms, and I think that's kind of where we're at. But I don't know if it's going to have like 2 thrusters coming off the back, or maybe just like 1 like Firefly. I have no idea. I don't know. I'm indecisive. So if you guys in the comments have any ideas for a description of a rust bucket ship like this, do let me know. The Fallen Mercury. Very cool. All right, so now we get to choose our final asset. Now that our ship is ready, I could pick one final asset. This time, you aren't limited to picking a path. You can choose from any of the asset categories. So a module, a support vehicle, a companion, or a path. And we're going to be picking a companion. Like I said earlier, I want a companion robot for our character. Something as comedic relief. Something that she built here on this prison ship. Or maybe something she built when she was actually a kid, and she's kind of just been working on it for a long time, like Star Wars-esque, you know, C-3PO kind of style. She like built it when she was younger, and it's kind of like a piece of junk, but she loves it, you know. So there's a lot in here. We've got Banshee Combat Bot, Protocol Bot might be what it is, Sidekick could be, Sprite Survey Bot, Symbiote Utility Bot, Void Glider. There's also a Glow Cat, which I think is really interesting. Let's read these. Okay, so it's looking like Utility Bot will help us like hack stuff and make stuff, which we don't necessarily need help with. I love the idea of a sidekick, because our sidekick will actually help us anytime we're outside of a fight and we roll a dice that's less than our sidekick's health, which it looks like it's at a max of 4. But also our Protocol Bot, which I think is cool and kind of fits the best for my narrative. It says here that our Protocol Bot companion is programmed with knowledge of cultures, languages, and customs. When you are aided by the bot, as you make a move in a formal social interaction, add +1. On a strong hit with a match, you learn something, which builds the understanding or empathy. Also mark 1 tick on your bond's legacy track. So it'll help us bond with people or with the bot itself, and it gives us +1 in social interactions, which I think is kind of fun, because I want this bot to be more narrative than anything else. So I think that's what we're going to go with. All right, finally, we get to set our stats of our character. We've got Edge, Heart, Iron, Shadow, and Wits. Arrange these values. We get 1, 3, 2, 2s, and these are permanent, so we're actually going to write them, not use This character fob was a great idea until I was limited on space. Okay, I imagine that our character was kind of like, you know, a street rat, so we're actually going to go with 3 in Shadow, which represents sneakiness, deceptiveness, and cunning. We're going to go with a 2 in Wits, which represents expertise, knowledge, and observation. We're going to go with a 2 in Heart, which represents courage, willpower, empathy, sociability, and loyalty. And I think only because Heart is social ability, I put it in there, because I feel like she's going to be kind of cunning and witty, you know? Which leaves us with 2 1s for Edge and Iron. And Edge is quickness, agility, and prowess. Fighting at a distance. Man, I really should have went with more Edge, huh? That's all right. And Iron is physical strength, endurance, and aggressive. Good deal then. Step 8 is set our condition meters and momentum meter. First, set your health, spirit, and supply meters to 5. And this is where our handy-dandy dry erase is going to come in handy here. And also, we need to come up with a name and a description for our bot, I just realized. So we're going to do that. First, let's set your health, spirit, and supply meters to 5. 5, 5, 5. Then set your momentum to +2. Momentum reset. Set your max momentum to +10. And your reset at 2, which puts us at dry erase for the win. We get to grab our cards, to put them in here. We're going to put kinetic at the top, gearhead right here. All right, then we've got Starship, and we're going to keep 2 spaces and Protocol Bot. And then we get to set them to their max value of 5 and nice. Pretty sick. Now that the mechanical and background aspects of your character are all set, take a moment to envision their appearance and personality. As of right now, this is our character. The important thing is that she's got this hood so she can cover up her ears. She's got these goggles. She carries like a futuristic wrench. I want to call it a sonic wrench, just because I love the idea of a sonic wrench. And obviously she's going to have 1 large cut in her ear for discover the truth about the astral elves. The iron vow that she took when she was young is probably the first vow she ever took, and something just made her do it, you know? Maybe she had a vision from her aspect card. But what do you think about our robot as well? I want it to be floating, like an orb that's got like a beam that comes out from it as it floats. We use it floats around, but I think it's got like an antenna off the top of it that lights up different colors, and it probably has a screen on the front that like shows emojis, I'm imagining, and probably a little speaker where its mouth is that's in the shape of like, I'd say it's a smile, just a big old smile, a piece of metal, and underneath it is a speaker. So it has emojis on its face, not eyes, but just like emojis, and then like a speaker in the face of a smile, and it floats around. And I don't know what she calls it. I actually want to roll for maybe a name of this robot, but it's going to float around with her everywhere. And I like the idea of it being a small cylindrical kind of thing, almost like a ghost from Destiny. It's about that size, because it'll be able to get in places and kind of get out of the way and hopefully not take any harm. And she talks to it, I'm sure, but I also imagine this robot is kind of like doesn't understand social interactions. It's almost like Drax in a way, where it takes everything literally. And so she's always trying to teach it how to understand metaphors and understand what like eating is and why people need to eat and stuff like that. Like it just has no idea. Like its memory module is kind of messed up. Like she made this thing when she was a kid, and so the way that she programmed it back then and the way that it is now, but she's so attached to it, she just kind of keep him around. But I want to roll for a fun name for him, which we will do in a minute. First, we got to roll for names of both things. So we get to name our character. Use your character sheet to give your character a name. Okay, 333. Well, let's pull out our handy dandy reference guide. Okay, so we have 3 pages of character names. Goodness, and I had a character name, but I do not think I wrote it down. It was from some show, and I was like, oh, that's such a cool name, and I don't remember what it was, so I guess we're just going to roll and see if we can come up with any inspiration for a character name for our character. Come on, camera. Everything is bright here. Stop. Okay, I turn on auto exposure. We'll see how that goes. But first, let's roll for name inspiration. 33! What a good number. Evelyn Legrand Failsafe. So there's call signs in here too. But I was like, oh my goodness, Failsafe is such a good name for the robot. I will think about that. Eveline. Eveline? I'm actually just going to read through these to see if there's anyone, because it's so important to pick a main character name that I'm just going to just see. Cassidy is in here, which I think is really good. And their call signs are like, you know, what they call people like over the radio and stuff like. All right, I want to roll for a last name, though. I need to clean up my area. I'm getting a little... We are going to roll for a last name. That is 52. Shelton. Hate it. Roll again. 7. Cade. Okay. I like that. Okay, here we go. Here's what we've got. Her name's going to be Cassidy Cade, and her robot's name is Failsafe. But Cassidy, like I-D-Y. And then Cade, C-A-Y-D. My goodness. So Cade and Failsafe are actually both from Destiny. Oh well. You look, am I a Destiny fan or am I a Destiny fan? I don't know. All right. Ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, take inspiration from the things that you love, all right? That's why we're here. Cassidy Cade and Failsafe. And I like the idea of double names like Bruce Banner and stuff like that. Those are always my favorite kind of character. Okay. Cassidy Cade, and on the character card, I'm actually going to write Failsafe. And maybe there's a reason for this name. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm going to put it right here. Name, Failsafe. Oh, ship name too, which was Fallen Mercury. Just gonna put Mercury and Failsafe. I love that. Oh, I'm pretty happy. All right, what's next? And that is our character. Now, quickly, I already have most of the idea for a starting planet, but there is an amazing starting sector thing that we can get into. So it makes sense to me to build our starting planet on the first episode, but this talks about building a whole sector, and so we're actually going to go through this quickly. I have no idea how long this episode's going to be already, as you guys know. I cut out a lot, usually, in editing, so there will be timestamps and everything. Choose your starting region. Terminus, Outlands, Expanse, or Void, which... There it is. So we got this nice little image here. So the Void is like way out there where like the Reavers. We've got the Expanse, the Outlands, and Terminus, which apparently is like the main area where a lot of like the high density planets and stuff are. And so I am thinking that we're going to be on the edge of the Expanse. We're going to have to, you know, get back into Central Galaxy to be able to figure out what's going on. But also it's a prison planet, right? And it makes sense to me that they would ship them out to the Expanse. So that's where we're going to be. Choose your starting region. I actually want a pin for this. The Expanse. Expanse. Determine the number of settlements. So it's going to be a prison planet plus 2 settlements. and these settlements could be on a ship or on another planet. There's going to be at least 2. Generate settlement details. Settlement details. So settlement names. We're going to generate, I guess, 3 of them because technically the prison planet needs a name. All right. So the first one, the prison planet, is 37. Janus. Hugh Janus. Goodness. Okay. We've got Janus. Then the 2 surrounding settlements are 9 Aurora and 30 Freya. We don't know what kind of settlements these are yet. Location, settlement location. Ah, I see. So either orbital or deep space. And if it is deep space, I'm also going to think about it just being a planet in itself. So let's roll here. 57. So Aurora is orbital. It'd also be orbital, but it makes sense to me to make Freya a planet. Deep space, another planet. Okay, population. 56. So there are hundreds of people living on Aurora, which is the space station floating around Janus. And then Freya, the planet, that's a 3. So in the expanse, there's only a few people living on Freya. So it could be like, I don't know, just like an outland planet, you know? Ain't nobody living there. That's fine. What is the authority of Aurora? 36. Tolerant. Tolerant authority, which down the middle, 5. So Aurora, Freya is lawless. Very interesting. All right, last one is settlement projects. So what is going on with Aurora? Why would there be a space station floating around a prison? 84. Sustenance. Subsistence. What the heck? Subsistence is the action or fact of maintaining or supporting oneself at a minimum level. The state of remaining in force or effect. What is its relevance to the prison? Maybe all these people used to live on this planet, and then whenever the faction came in, they took it over. They were like, look, this is going to be a prison planet now, but we're going to send all a few hundred of you guys up into a space station to live instead. And now they all just kind of live there. They're like the original people of Janus. That name is so funny to me. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, what about Freya? Anything going on there? 29. Environmentalism. Yeah, so maybe there's only a few people living there, and the people that do live there are like tribal. They're like, do not ruin our planet. Why did you bring our space station here? You know what I mean? I'm very cool with that. Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching here this episode 1, this session 0-esque episode of our new Starforged campaign. I don't have a name for the Starforged campaign, like a title, you know? Much like our zombie series, it was Family Survives Together. I'll try to come up with something, but if you have any ideas, being that you know what our character is all about thus far, please do leave them down in the comments below. I'm going to finish generating the sector details on a little map for us before we begin the next episode. I don't know how long this one's already going to be, and I'm afraid that it's going to be too long and it'll be intimidating for anybody to watch, so hopefully it's not there. If you did want to see all that, do let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do about it. But for now, thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. Please leave comments and ideas down below. Let me know what you think so far about my ideas, because I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say. I really loved all the feedback I've gotten on previous series, and you know, collaborating with a lot of you guys has actually been a blast. So I hope to see you guys down there this time as well. If you want to, you could also join our Discord. There will be a link down there in this episode. There'll be links to a couple different things that you can check out. And if you want to talk to me more consistently, you can absolutely join the Discord and you can share ideas and things. Also, you can share art if you want to make any kind of art of these characters, even if it's just pencil drawings or anything else like that. I honestly love to see it. So please do share those in the Discord as well, or you can tag us on social media at the Grouch Couch. I want to just start playing right now, but unfortunately we are out of time. So I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm so excited. Thanks for watching, and I really hope to see you throughout this next adventure we're going to be going on. I'm very excited. I have been Turk. Thank you so much for joining me on One Guy, One Die.